The fuck did you just say, Seth?
We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, who you love. If you want rule, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Yo, you ready?
We should go on that what's his face podcast that you told me about? Stars and Stripes one?
Stars and Stripes.
Stars and unicorns and stars.
Arts and spacecrafts.
Arts and spacecraft.
That's the homie.
Yikes. I hope they don't listen to this and like get offended.
I don't even know if they do listen to this, actually, funny enough, but one of them is an astrophysicist, which is fucking nuts, and the other is my old coworker, and like he does ballet and shit, and what the fuck?
He does ballet?
Yeah, he does ballet and shit. Ballet, I don't know if there's like a specific sect of dance that he does. I don't really know. I don't know how that shit works, but I know that he does ballet, he bartends. He told me that he actually like used to make beats in college, which is pretty cool. And I've been wanting to hear it, but like that hasn't happened yet. But yeah, they do a show about like space and all the other bullshit. But yeah, I kind of want to talk to them about Elon Musk, cause like,
and there was a new discovery in Venus that there may be life, even though it's just microbes.
Oh shit!
Microbic bacteria or something like that.
Oh word!
So,
yeah. There was some gas smoking on that Venus gas. No, nothing.
Yes. So we're just beginning this podcast by plugging another podcast. So Arts and Spacecraft, owe us a plug.
Yeah. Fucking I was actually on one of their episodes. No, they're both really nice people.
Finish that previous thought.
What's up?
Finish that previous thought.
Oh, nah, it's all right. Nah, I was on one of their episodes. I talked about like how much my life sucked and shit, and like why I'm into politics. It's pretty fun. But yeah, they're both really cool dudes.
Yeah, we should have them on.
Yeah, we should. Shout out Kevin. Shout out Jake. What up, players? All right, y'all listening to the Delusionals now. It's not about Arts and Spacecraft. It's about us now. Just kidding. But it is us right now.
It's about our BG, our GB, our I.
God damn. Well, all right.
Yeah.
So this is one thing that I think kind of gets people don't realize, like, when you critique a figure like this, when it comes from the perspective of like a leftist perspective, it's like there's so few politicians that will accurately reflect our politicians, our politics. There's also, I personally don't believe in celebrity worship or idolization of almost any figure. I do see why RBG is I do see why she's very important. And I'm not going to downplay that. But yeah, she passed, what was it, like 3 days ago? Something like that?
Friday? We're just really, it's not that, I mean, trust me, to prepare for this podcast, we actually went through her decisions. I have like a steadfast rule of never mourning unelected like aristocrats, and that's what she is. That's what the Supreme Court is. So her doing her job and making these impactful decisions is just literally her doing her job. A job that honestly I feel Congress and the executive branch should do, because they're actually elected by the people. We don't like. I get all the civil rights iconography that she gets. I get it. But what the Supreme Court has been used as is like passing the buck onto a Congress that has like no will or like sheer desire to really like legislate what people want, because the whole reason, well, lately the whole reason why it was important to get like a conservative judge like Gorsuch and Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court is to basically like solidify the anarcho-capitalism that the Republicans are trying to actually have. So we're basically not going to govern, and everything that we don't like that's already into law, we're just going to push it through the Supreme Court, not through Congress, and have their fight there. And you can never say it's us. You can never say it's the Republicans. You can say it's the Supreme Court.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand the purpose of the Supreme Court. It just feels like excessive bureaucracy. I don't understand how something like women's rights to abortion, I mean, just rights, period. It's strange to me that there is even the possibility of abortion rights being removed in 2020. Like, I don't understand how these rights are just not inalienable. Isn't that the whole point of the fucking Constitution? And, you know, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to be a historian. Like, I know the whole fucking, you know, history of the Supreme Court. But I do know that a lot of the excesses of capitalism, a lot of the dangers that comes from late stage capitalism, a lot of those decisions a lot of those gross manifestations were birthed in the Supreme Court. And RBG is one of those people that is kind of lionized for her feminism. And I think that don't get me wrong, I do think that that's important, because I think that identity politics and identity and class are linked, no matter what you want to say about it. But when you have someone who is a champion for the rights of one group of people or a certain group of people, how much of a champion are you? And I don't say this to shit on RBG. I don't mean this. I'm not trying to shit on anyone who, you know, I'm not trying to shit on anyone that fangirls her or whatever, but like, it's a serious question. And so she has some troubling shit on her record. She's voted for the passing of like oil pipelines. I mean, she's kind of been known to not really press against she doesn't really go against the grain, except when it came to women's rights. Everything else, she was more just moderate, establishment, you know, more so voted Republican on issues, or conservatively on issues. She usually would side with prosecutors when it came to criminal trials. She called Kaepernick's kneeling for the flag, kneeling during the anthem, she called it dumb and disrespectful or some shit like that. It's just like, there's just so much things that happen in the Supreme Court that I don't understand why it's not abolished. Just fucking get rid of it.
I do get the idea of the Supreme Court. I just don't get why citizens can't vote for it. Because think about it, we vote for county judgeships, we vote for circuit judgeships locally, so why not do it federally? Any critique of like RBG, like you have to remember like who appointed her as a circuit judge. Jimmy Carter, some people say the first neoliberal president. I myself haven't like reviewed his record yet, and the person who got her Supreme Court seat was Bill Clinton. So I'm not really surprised. She was the triangulation judge. So I'm not really surprised about the quote unquote surprising dissents that she has throughout her record. It's just all these things. Like, even remember when I told you that it wasn't Obama or Congress that made gay marriage legal, it was the Supreme Court.
Right.
And it's like, on an issue that's like 71% in favor with the American people, why can't Congress like simply push that through? Even Republicans see that gay marriage is something useful. So why don't they push that through?
Yeah.
And I think that it's this one big like. It's what they usually do with everything with social issues. This whole, oh my God, the other side may not agree, or the other side will exact a price that's too high for me, especially monetarily or economically, that I can't trade off making gay rights legal or making abortion actually legal, not through courtship. So again, it's just another. It's become a. I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say it's like the last. It's the last stage of capitalism. I think it's more the. It's the solidification of anarcho-capitalism.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. And it's yeah, RGB's record. I mean, like, you know, again, she's sided with corporations. She didn't really do much to fight against monopolization. She was more or less like a Bush Reagan style kind of judge. I mean, like she was pretty. She didn't really like. She fought hard on gender rights, which is good, but everything else she didn't. And
for the identitarian liberals, they just eat it up, and they've made her somehow this like popular pop culture icon, which is like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's
when has a Supreme Court judge ever been like that guy? Like, what's up? No. You didn't see the Timbs that Clarence Thomas wore? Like,
yo, when Kamala got off of that airplane in them Air Force Timbs, yo, I felt seen, bro.
I felt everything. I almost forgot that she arrested my mom when I was in high school.
When you weren't in high school, because you know that's what she did. The lionization of RBG is what drives me fucking crazy, because it's like the identity shit is what, like, if the basis of your politics is identity, then I don't know what to tell you. And like, I get it. Like I said before, identity and class are linked. And I mean, I personally think identity is incredibly important. If it wasn't, we wouldn't have to we wouldn't have to be so specific making laws, but we do. But she's in the city of Sherrill versus Oneida Indian Nation of New York. This Indian Nation was trying to get their sovereignty from the land that they purchased back, and she more or less told them no. And it's just like I said before, like, does she whose rights does she really fight for?
And the thing, like, when she was in Lego Batman, I'm like, guys, what are we doing?
She was in Lego Batman?
She was in Lego Batman. Like, a movie, like, targeted for kids. Why is a 87-year-old Supreme Court judge, making an appearance in a Lego Batman?
Wasn't she, like, a few weeks ago, she was wedding people without a mask. And she looked mad awkward in that photo. She just standing there all stern and shit. She looked mad fucking strange.
And there was like road sign everywhere saying protect her, when she herself wasn't wearing a mask. And funny enough, I found a quote about her. Sorry.
Nah, don't be sorry.
About saying how she actually feels about the whole Merrick Garland situation, and when a president should exactly fill that seat. In 2016, cooler heads will prevail. I hope sooner rather than later. The president is elected for 4 years, not 3. So the powers that he has in year 3 continue into year 4. And maybe some members of the Senate will wake up and appreciate that. That's how it should be. So all the clapbacks that the liberals have, saying that Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham are complete hypocrites for it. If you actually go by her own words, she actually wants to be replaced by someone right now.
She just doesn't want to be replaced by someone Trump appoints, because Trump is the big bad Cheeto.
Yeah. So anyway, you can't really like get on Mitch McConnell or Lindsey Graham for their hypocrisy without actually reading her words and saying, she does have a point. I mean, you can't really limit the president's powers from like, well, January 20th to like what's today? September 21st?
22nd.
You can't really limit it. Yeah. And Trump has said that he's going to announce his pick on Friday or Saturday. So it's just, in total, the whole confirmation process takes 70 days. So I think that like by the hair of their chin after the election, you could at least say that, hey, Joe Biden has somewhat of a right to like challenge whether Trump should have a pick. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not going to be terribly upset about how this goes through, because frankly, the Democrats don't do anything in power that's really mean. I never look at Mitch McConnell like, yeah, he's evil, I don't like his politics, but I respect him a lot more than any Nancy Pelosi, any Chuck Schumer. Like, he can literally, like, maybe my respect for the Republicans is too.
It's almost Stockholm syndrome-esque.
I mean, it's not that I really hate them.
But you can.
I mean, I feel like
you have to. I mean, you're kind of put in a position where you can do nothing but respect how much they don't fucking give a shit to play by the rules. Like they don't. Nothing hurts them. They're like fucking invincible. And it's crazy because I envy the amount of unity that Republicans have, because leftists don't have that. And it's like, leftists fight over the stupidest fucking shit despite having no real power.
And like, in some way, like, the Republicans have more of a pure democracy, like in getting that power in legal and ill-gotten ways. It frees them up from actually having like a real discourse within the party. Actually, like, it's the most amazing, like, it's like a dichotomy that it's a paradox. It's like they actually get to enjoy democracy even though they hate democracy. And that just wants, and if you think too hard on that, it makes you like want to put a gun in your mouth and just like, and
yeah, so RBG was a lot of the controversy around her is that Obama's choice in Merrick Garland was blocked by Mitch McConnell, and RBG was kind of, after he voted in Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh, people were like, fuck, RBG and I think Sotomayor are like the only liberal judges that we have. And so, she was doing fucking CrossFit, all this shit, trying to stay up on her fitness so that she wouldn't fucking die before the Trump administration, before they would be able to vote somebody in to replace her. And, we're all fucking terrified because it is scary shit. If they voted in a conservative, like, I mean...
Is it really scary shit? Like,
it's, so, in my opinion, it's scary in the sense that it's scary if you're not really too familiar with the Supreme Court record, because even this is something that I was just pulling up actually. So the Supreme Court ruled in favor to protect the DACA, the Dreamers. So DACA is basically a program where people can come, like kids can get an education and it shields them from deportation. But then shortly after, there was another case where a Sri Lankan refugee was seeking asylum, and I think he was denied and he tried to appeal it or something like that. But he basically was like, it's not funny, but he basically was like fleeing persecution. He was kidnapped in a van or something like that and beaten and like tossed on the side of the road and came to America like seeking asylum. And I think he tried to appeal it, and they were like, nah. They ruled 7-2 against him, and they were like, well, you can't prove who you're running away from, so you cannot get asylum here. It's a very strange case, and his name is, I can't pronounce his name, but if you can, it's a Sri Lankan refugee basically, but RBG ruled.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The Quarantine Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In a major victory for the Trump administration, the Supreme Court ruled Thursday the U.S. government can fast-track deportations of asylum seekers without first allowing them to fight for their case in front of a judge. The 7-2 ruling affects the thousands of asylum seekers whose initial credible fear claims are denied by immigration officers in bare-bone proceedings without a lawyer present. The American Civil Liberties Union said the Supreme Court's ruling, quote, fails to live up to the Constitution's bedrock principle that everyone gets their day in court.
Against his appeal. So it's like, I mean, and as I've been saying already, like, she has ruled against, indigenous rights. She's ruled in favor of monopolization. So, I mean, yeah, women's rights, we don't know what it's going to look like for that. But we don't know how Supreme Court is going to vote. There's no real way to predict it because even the conservatives, like Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh, have voted against Donald Trump's wishes. So it's strange. On whether transgender individuals could join the military and on gay marriage, both of them each voted for the deciding vote that made it go our way. But that's what I'm saying, that
it's being described as the biggest moment for equal rights in the US since gay marriage was legalized 5 years ago. Within the last couple of hours, the Supreme Court has declared that it's illegal to fire workers based on their sexual orientation. The ruling, which also covers the rights of transgender workers, was written by one of President Trump's own appointees, the conservative judge Neil Gorsuch. Well, let's get the latest from Washington, and our correspondent Anthony Zerka waiting to speak to me. And Anthony, just tell us more about this ruling, first of all.
Right, it was a 6-3 ruling based on the 1964 Federal Civil Rights Act, which provided workplace protections on a range of different areas for people based on national origin, race, sex, and religion. Well, sex was a big question here, whether in 1964 the members of Congress passed that intended for these sex protections to include people who come from transgender identity or based on their sexual orientation. The Supreme Court today in its decision said that yes, in fact, those coverages do expand to those two categories, and it represents a pretty significant change because many of the lower courts that had interpreted that law, lower courts across this country, had not issued those protections, such broad protections. So now the Supreme Court is stating that throughout the entire country, this federal law covers gay individuals and transgender individuals.
This new pick that Trump may have is going to come from the Federalist Society, a think tank that basically picked Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, and considering that I understand being scared because the only reason why they sided with the liberals is on procedural grounds, not on ethical grounds. Like, they didn't. If you read the decision, it was completely because the brief was that they basically rejected the brief on not on the merits but on the actual like procedural shit. So that's kind of scary, considering that if someone like in the Biden administration who actually will continue these things but more in a hush-hush way actually does put in the correct brief, and Gorsuch and Kavanaugh on this new Supreme Court nominee, if things are actually up to snuff, trust me, it'll be like 7-2 all the time.
Yeah.
So,
liberals lost their shit when she passed, and one of my I don't know if did you see any of the tweets?
Oh, what tweets? Whose tweets? Their tweets?
So my favorite is just told I don't know who the fuck this woman is, but just told my 10-year-old daughter about RBG. She had tears in her eyes, and then she did the Wakanda pose and said Ruth Conda forever, which is the sort of pop culture crossover that I can celebrate.
without even
Ruth Conda forever.
So this woman was white.
Bro, yeah, of course. What are you talking about?
Okay.
And mad people were like, mad liberals were just like, oh, I can't wait until she meets Chadwick Boseman in heaven. And it's just like, I don't understand. Why do you guys only think in terms of brands and like icons? And it's like symbol poisoning to the worst degree.
These people are worse than the fascists, and you guys keep on like trying to convince me. Like, I'm telling you guys, I'm like saying no. It's okay to say it out loud. You're worse than the fascists.
I mean, liberalism kind of enables fascism, don't you think? I mean, shit, we've seen plenty of examples lately.
Let's say it together, Sal. You're worse than the fascists.
They're worse than the fascists. Then there was also, my other favorite tweet was, somebody said that I was in my house, startled, an earthquake. I came to my shelf and realized the only thing had fallen was my RBG action figure. What the fuck do you have an RBG action figure for? What the fuck do you do with an RBG action figure?
Okay, this is the appeal to socialism.
Overruled.
This is the appeal to socialism. We're not that. That's it. That's the only thing I can promise you. I can't promise you that you're gonna win elections. I can't promise you that you'll get a working class that's like strong enough to overtake the government. But I'll promise you, you'll have dignity and you'll have pride. That's the only thing.
I will say the left has better tweets than like anyone else. We're undefeated on Twitter.
It's not even about the tweets. It's about like we don't embarrass ourselves. Like we're not like when Bernie dies. God forbid, you're gonna be like, damn, that was a real one. We're not gonna say I hope Lenin gives him like I hope he plays like chess with Lenin up there. Like what? I mean, we're not. Trust me, guys. We have our dignity and we're commoners who have dignity. That's the appeal.
All right. So, in conclusion, RBG, RIP, RBG, big dog status. She actually went to our high school, notable alumni, shout out big dog. But, as far as our politics, she does not represent the entirety of ours. So,
so right now it's going to be 51-49. Murkowski, Susan Collins, and 52. It was gonna be 52-48. Because
you talking about the presidential shit? What are you talking about? I'm sorry.
No, I'm talking about if the vote were to happen today, since Romney just announced that he will be voting for Trump's nominee.
Yeah, there's a handful of Democrats that are gonna vote for it too.
So far, just Manchin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
But Christine Sinema of Arizona might. So, do you not see the difference? If you did that, if Mitch McConnell ever heard you crossing over and doing that, voting for the Supreme Court, you'd be done.
That's the thing, bro. Like, they got so much fucking loyalty. They don't even, how many fucking QAnon people are in, I think it's like one QAnon person is like in Congress.
Organization.
That's it. Like, they don't, what do Republicans infight about? Seriously. The way that leftists infight over ideological purity and shit, what the fuck do Republicans fight about?
It's not that they don't have infights, because they do have infights.
But you don't see that shit.
I mean, because we're not in right-wing like circles. We're not in it, so we don't know about it.
I guess
But but it's like varying degrees of the same thing. So like a paleoconservative would be like, hey, I want a 25% corporate tax cut. A libertarian would be like, I want a 5% tax cut. But it's like, yo, if there's a tax cut, it was going to be had. Like, it's going to be actually be on the ballot. Democrats and the left, it's like, well,
let's defer to the Republicans and let them decide.
We're not going to raise taxes, and we're gonna just wear dashikis for the week to remember the struggling Black people who died from hunger because their SNAP programs was not replenished with funds that we could have gotten by taxing people.
Let's commemorate all the Black people we've indirectly killed, and sometimes directly killed with our horrible policies.
So, and even if Joe Manchin doesn't go on the other side, it'll be 50-50, and Mike Pence has the tiebreaker.
Shit. Well,
yeah.
Hold on to your seats, folks. Well, yeah, that's it for RBG. I mean, you don't really care for the next Supreme Court judge, do you?
Who it is?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, again, it's out of our hands.
Oh yeah, true.
They're gonna be. I mean, for a while, like 17 out of the 20 Supreme Court judges, I believe from 1980 to 2000, 17 out of the 20 were picked by a Republican president, and you could say that 1980 was the start of the decline for this country. So
yeah.
But we made it somewhat.
So I kind of wanted to. I mean, it isn't all doom and gloom, I'm assuming, with the Democratic Party. I mean, I don't really know if we'd consider socialists to be Democrats. I mean, they do tend to run on the Democratic Party ticket, but I'm not sure if you'd really, I don't really know, tomato. But in Rhode Island, there's been a pretty much like a sweep of progressive victories in their fucking, I don't know, state house or some shit.
Yeah. So
they're all like DSA affiliated, right?
So basically, working families parties, DSA, Sunrise Movement, basically all like local chapters of big progressive institutions. They basically create a cooperative. It's called the Rhode Island Political Cooperative, and they just recruited. So they built like a whole infrastructure of like volunteers. They said instead of having like you be Sunrise and you be DSA, how about you just work under one banner? They basically recruited 15 people for candidates for both State House and Assembly House, and basically 10 out of the 15 won, which is
pretty fucking good.
Yeah, which is unheard of that the left could actually strike that many seats in one night. I mean, we've had like Cori Bush, we've had Jamal Bowman, and we have
Jabari
to some degree and Mondaire Jones. So like, yeah, they're more scattershots from like different places, and maybe don't get me wrong, that's great, but Rhode Island, they did something, and on the hush hush too. Like I didn't hear about it. They didn't. We're in DSA. We didn't get an email about it saying that, hey, support these guys in Rhode Island.
Yeah, I don't think I got that either.
We're definitely going to like put all their information up so you can donate, even though I swore not to donate to political people anymore. But
some of them are worth it.
Yeah, but I sound like a battered wife. But
I mean,
whether it's a comeback or not, we're gonna edit that out.
The primaries were really brutal. So, I mean, I kind of did feel like I was being held captive during the whole Bernie Biden primary, but like, I get how you feel because I feel the same way.
So, this idea was created by this writer from Jacobin, and he's the host of a podcast. We're full of podcast plugs today, apparently. His name is Daniel Denver.
Daniel Denver, have us on our show, dude.
Yeah, and he co-founded Reclaim Rhode Island, and it basically squared up everyone into this whole thing. And honestly, I think we should do this with every state. Try to build out this coalition between, like, I don't understand how we have like a South Brooklyn DSA, a Midwood DSA, a Central Brooklyn DSA, a North Brooklyn DSA. Like, sometimes it is important to be fragmented because we have our own like unique problems, like the things that we have going on in Central DSA is not in Central Brooklyn DSA is not the same thing as in North Brooklyn DSA because the demographics there are different. But at the same time, when it comes to elections, I think we should definitely have like this whole cooperative model where you just share funds, volunteers, the whole infrastructure of winning elections, just share it amongst each other. And it's like, why didn't we think like it? Like, it's funny. It's like staring us in the face because it's part of our ideology of like building co-ops and unions. And it's like, why didn't we do this earlier?
Yeah.
It's like, what? Like, that's why like when I read it, I'm like,
It's like, weird because so I was actually in Rhode Island recently. Shout out to John and Alexis. They showed me a great time. I was there with my fiance. My friend was telling me when I was there, he was telling me how much of a progressive city Rhode Island is becoming. And there was a lot of anti-capitalist sentiment there. There was a lot of like Black Lives Matter signs, but it was a little different from when you see them in like upstate New York. It wasn't like the, you know, in this house we believe in science and X, Y, and Z. It was like Black Lives Matter, fuck police. Like they were pretty brazen about like, you know, how they felt. But one of the most interesting things that I saw in that article was her name was I don't know how to pronounce it. Leonelle. Am I saying it right? Leonella Felix. And she won over like a heavily white working class city of Pawtucket. And I was in Pawtucket. And that area definitely is white and working class. And one of the strategies that I saw that I thought was really cool was that they get people to drive in buses, take them to places to canvass, and then like take them home. I don't know if that exists in a lot of places. I would imagine it's not really entirely necessary in New York, but I think for let's like someone from New York realistically could canvass somewhere like Rhode Island. It's not that far of a drive. Like I think it's possible, but I just thought that was a cool strategy. But and to piggyback of what you were saying off of the DSA, like I try to do organizing and like volunteer work whenever I can. It doesn't happen very often, unfortunately, but I also can't help but get the feeling that a lot of it kind of feels disjointed. So that's partially something that annoys the shit out of me too. Like I would love to do more in my area, Marine Park, but like I don't know what the fuck this neighborhood needs. This neighborhood is so deep red that I don't even think that I could if I wanted to. But
well, we have the good people of the Marine Park political youth organization behind you. I'm sure that they need your support.
This is the episode of the shout outs. Yeah, yeah, that's true.
I'm just gonna name drop everyone. Like I'm game.
This is the name dropper. But I mean, also more importantly, with the victories in Rhode Island, it's interesting because after Ed Markey won, there was concerns that I think it was the Sunrise Movement, that they probably spent too much money on ensuring his victory when there was other progressive candidates that could have used that money. And it's nice to see that Rhode Island won so handily a wave of progressives, but it also shows that I don't understand why, like, well, I do understand. The Democrats don't want the progressives to win. And people should understand that. And like, for real effective change to happen in this country, we need to pay attention to progressive races, progressive candidates, because this wave of victories in Rhode Island, I mean, I don't know if it's indicative of the success of progressives across the country, But, you know, people want that populist message, and we can give it to them.
It's a model in which needs to be copied because, especially on the local level, because I think that locally, the DSA chapters have been like killing it. Not so much federally because, again, you have the full weight of the DNC, the Triple C, and like everything that comes with that. So locally, we need to definitely gain power, and it makes you think that things like the Sunrise Movement. Like, I was pretty upset when they rescinded Alex Morse's
Endorsement.
Yeah, I was kind of mad at that, but you need to realize that like the national chapters of these organizations don't really like listen to the local chapters. So that I need to realize that we need to realize that just because like they fail at doing something one way, that we shouldn't completely abandon them. Because frankly, I don't want to talk about Joe Biden this episode because I feel like that's all we talk about. But like someone who failed even like your most basic standards should not be getting your endorsement or should be co-opting you in any way. And I feel like you're allowing that for a Faustian bargain that you're never going to like really cash in. That's why I had that critique about Bernie. And frankly, that's why I'm starting to see that with AOC, another person that we speak about all the time on the podcast. But seeing her next to Chuck Schumer, in front of my high school on Bedford Avenue, in front of my avenue.
This is my avenue.
Because everything, as soon as Flatbush cuts Bedford, everything below Flatbush and Bedford that's me.
Everything that light touches is yours, Simba.
The fact that like they didn't hit me up, that pissed me off. The fact that like AOC is getting like, there's rumors about her primarying Chuck Schumer in 2022, and she's basically right next to him. I mean, things could change, but like it doesn't like exactly give me like this whole spirit of you being an outsider and you challenging the establishment when you're next to the Democratic minority leader.
Yeah, I mean, I try to be. Again, I'm sorry.
It's not her politics. Like, you don't have to. It's not even your district, really. I think that's Hakeem Jeffries' district. So why wasn't he out there?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because and he's in Democratic leadership. So I don't understand why you had to leave the Bronx / Queens to go to Brooklyn to espouse things that like the person behind you who has more power, who has the real power really, who is the person who's going to like, whatever happens is going to be an indictment on Chuck Schumer, a referendum on Chuck Schumer. So like whether Mitch McConnell passes or allows a vote for Trump's Supreme Court pick, that's going to be on Chuck. So I understand that like he needed you, but again, what did you get for that? Is Chuck Schumer going to like, is he going to reinstate the marijuana bill that they claimed that they were behind and then suddenly like skirted off from as recently as last week? And what did you get from that? I want to ask this question like every single week, because what do we get for our message? Our message that's naturally popular.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have like a history. I mean, we've kind of gone back and forth on AOC. I think both of us have kind of switched our opinions on her too. like we're kind of inconsistent with her, because I mean that's kind of the dubious nature of her as an establishment Democrat or as a democratic socialist Democrat. So it's kind of weird because it's very hard to determine where she has a spine for. She definitely does fight for the working class, at least out in the open. I don't think her voting record is really bad. She does adhere to her principles when it comes to her voting record, which is good. But she's thrown Ilhan Omar under the bus for the allegedly anti-Semitic remarks, which was a weird scenario in itself. It wasn't anti-Semitic remarks at all. It was definitely some, like, you know, people being hypochondriacs and not really listening to what the fuck she's saying. And it was just, she openly critiqued AIPAC. That was really what the issue was. She's really bad on foreign policy. She met with a Bolivian group to discuss the coup in Bolivia. That was definitely a coup. This was also a weird story because it just seems like she doesn't really know how to stand her ground with certain things, specifically foreign policy. So the far-right group that came to visit her to speak about the coup in Bolivia, you know, she took a photo with them and everything, and it was just like, you know, there's a fucking paramilitary group inserting a dictator in fucking Bolivia right now. They basically ousted Evo Morales, and you're just like taking a fucking photo with this group of people. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And of course, it doesn't mean that she co-signs it. It doesn't really mean that she did anything or she had a hand in it, but it is a very concerning display of allegiance. Like, are you going to fold eventually to imperialism? There was also some stupid fucking hysteria. She liked a tweet from Rania Kalek, is that how you pronounce her name? From the Gray Zone. She was talking about airport security. AOC liked the tweet, and some fucking deranged lunatic was just like, oh, you like, basically she let me find the fucking tweet actually. So there's a pro-war troll who DM'd her, and so this woman is Mariam Naib Yazdi, basically DM'd AOC and was like, yo, why would you like this tweet from Rania Kalek, blah 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 blah, you don't care about your position. She basically like scolded her for liking a tweet, and AOC was like, oh, I'm gonna take the like back, that's my bad. It's just like, Rania Kalek is a fucking anti-imperialist. What the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you apologizing for liking a fucking tweet? You know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. So, come to find out, the person that was harassing her to fucking change her DM, to change her tweet, to change the fact that she liked the tweet, she supported the fucking war in Iran. It's like, so what the fuck? So it's like you said, like, what are you sacrificing when you do this stuff? And that's what I've been asking myself of AOC, and just everything that she's been doing. Just like, what the fuck is your goal?
I think that she needs to recognize that, like, there's certain things that it's not your fight. And, like, okay, like, people keep on saying that Trump's aspiration is to become a dictator, which is, honestly, for me, that's unproven. But
I don't think it's true at all, because he was supposed to have banned TikTok and he didn't. He didn't because they opened up a headquarters in U.S. Like, that's.
But see if he did, right?
Right.
It wouldn't be our fight for him to stop him. Like, we actually would be powerless to stop him, because again, if on the road to becoming a dictator, certain like civil liberties would have to be like extinguished, so, or completely centralized, like the function of the president of the United States is.
Yeah.
So you don't have to fundraise for the Democrats. I heard that they raised up to $91 million in 24 hours after Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. And I'm like, 91? You're going to give Joe Biden $91 million for what? And that's the other. I don't want to go off track the subject, but what do you do with the money when it's not used? Because I remember when Rachel Maddow did like this expose about the slush money, potential Russian money coming into the Trump victory campaign. And I'm like, if Joe Biden's not opening campaign offices, he's not traveling.
He doesn't even have a ground game, which is also so fascinating to me, considering that he's running for fucking president.
So where's this money going to exactly? I mean, ad buys are like, I get that ad buys are expensive now that like everyone's trying to like sell you something in this pandemic, but that's a lot of money. He's closing into like $750 million.
It's kind of funny that if that's their strategy to just strictly pay for ads, it's funny to me, because the Rhode Island progressive wave, they won off of progressive policies and really good campaigning. There's no ground game in fucking Michigan, which is a swing state for the Biden campaign. They're raising all this money. If their intention is to just buy ads and shit, it's like, you guys are you just old? I mean, I guess I can't be surprised you're a bunch of fucking octogenarians that don't fucking remember shit for your fucking goldfish brains. But Mike Bloomberg spent how much money on ads in the fucking presidential campaign? I mean, to be a nominee, and how many delegates did he get? Like one in Guam or something like that.
But the point was to crush Bernie. They pay any amount of money to do that. So it really doesn't matter. But now saying it, I mean, I honestly think that the whole reason Biden actually ran was to crush Bernie, because there was no alternative there was no real alternative besides Bernie.
Oh, you mean that's why you think Bloomberg ran?
I think that's why everyone ran.
Oh yeah.
Bernie was a grenade, and you guys had to be the bodies who shield that grenade from going off. Because Kamala Harris could say all the progressive things that she wants, but no one really believes her. Because part of
it was a debate. It was a debate.
Part of having a presidential campaign is that you have like press coverage, and they follow you everywhere, and they'll follow you to Scranton, Delaware, and to the Hamptons. And what you say in Scranton has to reconcile with what you say in the Hamptons, and it usually doesn't. Bernie could pull up anywhere, not the Hamptons, definitely, and just say the same thing he says there in Albuquerque, in Portland, in whatever. So, and that's another critique I have about AOC, is that she can't pull up anywhere and just start spewing stuff, because again, the culture wars that she tends to fight are pretty. It's not that it's not worth saying, but it turns a certain demographic of people off, and they'd rather not really speak about that. I mean, for me, I understand acquiescing to the Democratic Party, to Democratic leadership, because again, you're 1 out of 425. So I understand that, but I'm sure that you can't, now that Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush and Mondaire Jones, and we have a bit more of a squad. I say that rolling my eyes.
Wasn't she silent on endorsing Cori Bush? She was silent on congratulating her for her victory?
She did not endorse Cori Bush.
That's a little weird to me.
Because I think Lacey Clay either signed on the Green New Deal or some other bill she had in Congress. So, and politics is transactional, but she's not really stepping into her leftist ideals as more people join her in Congress.
Right.
So remember when I said that you should really hold off her critiques on on AOC and really on everyone on the left. I mean, I'm not saying hold off on them, but like, you shouldn't really expect them to do anything because they don't have any like backing. Now that they have a little bit more backing, I don't see anyone, especially her, really stepping into her like, hey, we're going to speak about Julian Assange and press freedoms, which should be a layup for her and really the Democrats, but we're going to get to that. Or we're going to talk more about unions and car checks. And like, it's not, she does say that, but it's not as forcefully as she does the identitarian stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's
so.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. We took a long break. It's like a 7-hour break, but yeah, that concludes the episode. We just wanted to do some quick shout outs. I want to shout out my homie Stephen Varr for pledging to our Patreon, our Delirious tier. Thank you so much, Stephen. I really appreciate it. Stephen is the homie. Stephen and I have been homies for a very long time. And if you're thinking of pledging to our Patreon, it's patreon.com/thedelusionals. You get access to our Delirious tier. Every dollar helps make the show better, helps us bring on exciting guests, help us record more frequently. We're looking to do a video series and a reading series in the future. And also, I'm going to start putting like exclusive beats and stuff on there that I make. So like every so often I'll probably drop something in there that you can't hear on like iTunes or SoundCloud or some shit. Just something to like warm me up a little bit. And hopefully people enjoy it too.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to Jeff. He's the artist who created the new cover art you're seeing. You should follow him at my_fetal brain, and check out his designs. It's really great. He does a lot of political work and got us some attention from some pretty big guests that we're going to have in the future. So, yeah. Also, don't forget to rate us at ratethispodcast.com/thedelusionals. And thank you for listening. Have a good day and have a good night.
Big shout out to motherfucking Jeff, yo. The cover art is sick. I love it. Thank you.